put it in the chat that you have that you would like to say something, please feel free to put in the chat. So welcome to our Power Strategy Group, a deep dive roundtable of busy business owner life hacks. I am just going to help host and keep the conversation going, but I really, like I said, I want to, we all can learn from each other. So I'm an immigration attorney, and I wrote a book about law practice management for ALA, and have a consulting business, Power Strategy Group. And so I love having this roundtable space for us to have a conversation amidst among all the things that we're doing, running businesses, being lawyers, of everything that all the hats we wear at home and professionally. And so I wanted to have this conversation. Here's some ideas of some things that we can talk about, from everything from time management, eliminating distractions. The book Getting Things Done is a really great book, and I wanted to mention it. And if anybody else has read it and wants to rave about it, feel free to chime in as well on that. Eliminate, simplify, automate, delegate, and just sort of like how to practically put that in place. Home management ideas, health, and business management. And I say business management because not everyone's a law firm owner. Maybe they have a different business, or maybe they're a partner or what have you, but how you're running your business and what tips can you use. So okay, well, and thanks everyone who's joining us today. We are recording for those who couldn't be on at this time, but those who are here are joining in on the conversation. So I am just going to say a couple things about this time management, and then if you have something you want to share, please do. And let me see where I got my polls here. I'm going to launch I love polls. They're so much fun for some reason. So this is my first poll that I'm going to launch. It's sort of like a survey of what area do you need the most, or we need to work on the most. So time management and eliminating distractions. There was a really good book called Deep Work. A friend, a business owner, recommended it to me right before I wrote my book. And I was just thinking, how am I going to squeeze any more time in my busy schedule? And one of the biggest things I took away from the Deep Work book was that you have to batch projects together, so that way you can do like-minded things. His biggest point was, my biggest takeaway was that when you're multitasking, you're not actually multitasking, you're switch tasking. You're moving from one thing to the next. So it could be I'm checking the balances because I have to give for some refunds, and then I'm trying to talk to somebody about a strategy, or I'm checking an email, or taking a quick phone call, or checking a text or something. Reality is, everything you bounce from one thing to the next, you're losing your ability to work effectively, because you're getting attention residue, and that residue, if you like a sticky substance, if you will, is adding every time you move from one thing to the next, and then it's slowing you down to making you less and less efficient. So this can be, you can glean things from all different things from this, from when's the best time for you to do research, when's the best time to write. For me, it's in the morning. When is the best time to do high level business strategy ideas? In the morning for me. At the end of the day, I've made so many decisions, I'm exhausted. I don't know about you, if you've had that decision fatigue. And I'm just like, not one more thing. That's probably why no good substantive business can happen on a Friday afternoon, right? So it also helps you decide when to best organize meetings too, and when to work on certain things. So the other thing that you can use, the other thing he said was that we are only capable of doing about 3 to 4 hours of deep work a day, which sounds crazy because we have an 8-hour work day, which a lot of us business owners have more than an 8-hour work day, but we're paying people for an 8-hour work day, and we're thinking, well, what are you doing the rest of the time? Well, maybe we're working, obviously, but the thing is that the more you do the switch tasking, the less effective you are. And so that's just food for thought, if anybody wants to add anything to that. But the other thing you can do is time blocking, where you're like, I'm only going to do consults on these days, or I'm only going to check my email at these 2 times a day, instead of trying to jump around doing multiple things all at the same time. And for me, I do consults on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, internal meetings on Tuesdays, and Fridays is sort of like a hodgepodge of finishing up the week, internal meetings and essential things that need to happen before the weekend. But so deep work was a really good inspiration. The other thing he talked about was that you have to work hard like a muscle, strengthen that muscle to eliminate distractions. And because it's easy to be distracted by, a WhatsApp chat, a text, a Facebook, a LinkedIn, all these things are like beeping at you in the emails, and then someone walks in and this and that. And so then you're just like, what was I doing? And then you lose that it takes you a few more minutes to get back to whatever you were trying to do. And so there's lots of little techniques with putting timers or trying to say that to the signal to your staff, or, I'm working on something important. Like one of the things I have in my office is a sign on my door. And if it says do not disturb or out of office or feel free to come in or something along those lines. And I just move the little magnet based off of what's going on. So I get the culture of an open door, but I also respect my focus and time. So these are just some tips. And there's also more about identifying the roles you play, whether that's mom, boss, lawyer, media respondent, communicator, author, or caregiver, all the different roles you might be wearing, and then which ones do you need to do, and when can you fit them in your schedule. So these are just some ideas on that. And because you might always feel like I'm always trying to catch up, I never can get everything done. And those are just some ways to think about it. The other thing would be I'll get to that in a second, about eliminating things that you don't need to do and automating them. So we'll get there in a minute. But, there's this really good book called When, and he basically just talks about there's best times to do certain things, like getting surgery or going to a doctor or something like that. And so I also use a lot of that for my ideal days to do consults or meetings on that such. There's a book called Eat the Frog. It goes back to the whole quote about, if the worst thing you had to do is eat a frog, you should do it in the first thing in the morning so that the rest of the day it's a pretty nice day. And then, as opposed to wasting all your energy worrying about that horrible thing you have to do, well, not horrible thing, that tough thing you have to do. For me, it might be getting ready for a court case, or having to have a difficult conversation with a staff member or something like that. But you use a lot of energy, expend a lot of energy just having to get ready to prepare for that. And Deep Work was a really good book, Getting Things Done, and The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, Life Leverage. So a lot of these books I mentioned, I quoted at some point in my book, and I even wrote a whole chapter on time management. And one of the other ones here, this quadrant, is all about time management and focus. Now, this one was made popular in the 7 highly effective habits of effective, or whatever, you know what I'm trying to say, book. And it was made popular by that book, but it was General Eisenhower's quadrant system. And you've probably heard me speak about it, but I really love it. It basically talks about, you can divide everything into 4 quadrants. At the top, we have urgent, not urgent. And on the left, we have important, not important. So urgent, important is really where we might spend a lot of our time here, putting out fires. Oh, somebody gave their resignation, or I've got to get somebody off the bus, they're going to get deported, or I don't know, whatever it may be, that but this is really where it's easy to live, but we're not supposed to be there. We're supposed to be living in quadrant 2, which is the not urgent, important, which is building, it's like working out so that we don't have health issues, writing out our procedures so that we have a procedural manual and everyone knows what they're supposed to do. It's long-term planning, preventative activities. And that's really where we're supposed to live. But sometimes we get so stuck in quadrant one, we don't know when and how, and we don't make a priority to build off time to work on quadrant two. Then the quadrant three is urgent but not important. This is really a lot of the little beeping interruptions, like a phone call that doesn't need to happen at that point in time, taking anything that just happens your way, and letting your day be derailed by other people's interruptions on your time. And quadrant four is where we should not be ever. It's not urgent, not important. This is like time wasters. This might be something like strolling through social media when you're just sort of so tired of the whole day, that or something like that, or maybe just like sort of mindlessly going through your email trying to figure out what you're doing. But really, I find myself, if I'm ever in quadrant four, because I'm just so tired, I probably should just like stop working or take a break or something, and try to focus on quadrant two. So these are just some like super high level, really fast overview of some really cool tips. But anybody who has anything they'd like to share on time management before we move forward? What are you doing with your firms? How do you keep yourself? How do you block off time? Anybody else want to share? Kim, I know you, Karina, Nina, anybody? I know, Kim, you were on a podcast recently, Felton, and about how you stay organized and keep everything running. I mean, we all can learn from each other. So anybody want to chime in? Feel free.
So I do something that I feel like I go back and forth about whether this works or not. But in the past, I used to I would say, oh, I'm only going to return calls or texts at this time of the day. But then I would wind up at like 5 o'clock with this list. And it was like the longest list, and it took me forever. And so, I still go back and forth, but now it's like what I have trained pretty much like all my clients, and I have in my voicemail, is to send me a text, because I feel like I can respond to a text when I'm in the bathroom. I can respond to a text when I'm like with my dog, and like, I don't know, like I sometimes I go back and forth, because I'm with you that it's like, well, that isn't quite blocking time, but like, I find it to be a lot more efficient, because then I'm not having to like respond to all these calls, and I can like kind of, delegate it more quickly and like send text to my staff about stuff, and it gets managed a lot faster than, and then again, then I wind up and I'm like, it's 1 o'clock. I don't know what I've done today. Oh, I've been like responding to text half the morning. So, I go back and forth about whether that's the best strategy or not, but that's what I have found for myself that tends to work better than like, oh, I only return calls at this time.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have to figure out what works for you. I remember, like, one of the things we're not supposed to do is just like keep our email open. I'm sort of guilty of that sometimes, and just sort of like, respond to whatever comes in. Then you just sort of get a little dopamine hit, like, okay, I'm responding to that. Yes, 1 down, 6,000 more to go, or whatever it may be. And but I remember when I worked from Dubai, like US didn't wake up until my 2 p.m. And then all the emails started flying and stuff like that. But if I would just only check on my email like at one point, and I knock them all out instead of like wasting a lot of my time being on standby. So yeah, that's just another thing where I've seen sort of that whole, blocking really helped. And we know a lot of what we're supposed to do. We just need a reminder every once in a while, right?
Hey, Ruby, this is Katie Karam.
Yeah, hey.
I just wanted to say that I don't know, maybe everybody else already does this, but I learned from a mentor a few years ago that, a lot of our clients will call us and say, I have an emergency. I need to talk to the attorney now. And if you've got someone answering the phones for you, like a lot of us have, an admin person who can do that, it's been really helpful to train my office administrator who answers the phone to just tell them, hey, I need you to tell me in less than 2 minutes what your emergency is. And I will write it down and take it to the attorney, and she will decide if it's a genuine emergency or not. And if it is, she will get back to you, because the emergencies are often, my driver's license is going to expire in a month and my EAD hasn't come yet, and what do I do? And we all know that there's, situations like that we can't do something about it today. And if it's going to cost additional for them to expedite something or other that's urgent, they don't want to pay for it, and it's not part of our service agreement. So too bad, dude. And so it's like, there's things I think that I don't know about everybody else, but I feel like right now I'm not a great time manager, and I'm not saying I am, but that one little thing helps a lot, because I think right now everybody's anxiety level is so high. We went through 4 years of Trump administration policy changes that, surprised a lot of people. And now we're in this strange period of trying to deal with COVID and everything else. And so having someone, even if you answer your own calls, to just tell whoever it is, okay, you have an emergency, you tell me in a minute what the emergency is, and I will decide if it actually is an emergency that we need to do something about right now.
Yeah, that's really good reminder. And because we can't let people just sort of just intersperse their concerns throughout our day, when we need to have a chance to sort of like get to things when we need to get to them. And if having somebody else be empowered to triage whether the priority of that matter really helps save us time in our distraction. Nina, did you want to say anything?
How do I take your, can you hear me?
Yeah, yep, you're great.
Okay. What I did is I changed my contract, and I put the definition of what is urgent. And if it's not an urgent, because I am a new solo. No, I'm saying it, I am in the second year. And then my clients have my cell phone number.
Oh boy.
And somebody else put my cell phone number on a chat for immigrants. Then the phone was ringing nonstop, day and night. Messages, WhatsApp, it was a nightmare. Then I give to my clients on the contract the definition of an emergency. Then if they are free to contact me, because it's a flat fee rate, but if there's excessive communication, and on that excessive communication is not urgent, unfortunately, I will need to charge you for that excessive communication, because I don't have time to babysit each client all day long. And I learned from you to do the consultation in blocks. Then I do only 2 days a week, the block, the consultations, and I work on each case step by step. Then I don't leave anybody behind. But it's tough because I didn't learn how to do it. I don't know how to delegate yet in the proper way. Then I need to finish your book and learn how to master that technique. And thank you so much for everything and all your resources that you are sharing with us in order for us to improve. Really grateful.
Well, my pleasure.
Thank
That sounds like a bit of a challenge there. If the cell phone number got everywhere, you might just need to change your number, maybe.
I did.
Okay. So you got there. Oh man. Yeah, I know it. Whenever you give your number out, it doesn't end well, it seems like. And that one exception. So, well, those are, that's all about valuing time. And honestly, while we're doing all this is because we're trying to be better at running our business, better lawyers, better everything, so that we can help better serve everyone who needs our services. And that's understandable. One thing that I think is a good way to sort of gauge if you got your time under control or not is to do an audit of your time and just sort of like, what do you do every day? And I know a lot of people don't like keeping track of their time, but I think this is a really good thing to do, because then you can just sort of say, this is actually what you have to do to figure out to go to the next step, which is the elimination, automation, and all that delegation. So if you haven't done this in a while, I would suggest you do this, and then figure out, what exactly do you do? Because you might be really surprised. It might be something like you're sending out invoices and you have somebody who could do that, or you're writing contracts and you have somebody who could do that, or you're I don't know, you're answering the same question over and over again and you can get a template for that, or train somebody else to screen for those questions. And so this is a really good idea to get a good grasp of your time. So this is a book that let's see. Laura, let's see, trying to look at all the questions here. Does anybody else have a question or a comment? Does anybody have advice about managing time when caring for children, like having to block out 2 to 7 for kids?
Yeah, I can give some input on that, Ruby.
Sure.
So I'm not even going to pretend that I'm great at time management, even, 50% of the time. But like you were saying, batching projects is so important so that you stay in that same mindset. And then also knowing what your weaknesses are, like where you tend to fall into those rabbit holes, so that you can either plan for it or recognize when you need to get out of it. But when it comes to kids, you have to protect that time and keep it sacred. Don't let other people encroach on those boundaries. Work your schedule around that and then preserve it for that and only that. So, clients are going to call. And what Nina was saying, I also do the same thing. I give examples of what's an emergency and what isn't. And that's helpful, but that's not going to stop everybody from trying to encroach on those boundaries. I mean, I had people calling at 9:30 on a Saturday night, and, you just got to leave it be, and you've got to be willing to be okay with that.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's always a struggle, but you have to protect your time and know your boundaries. And if you let them reach you, be so accessible, then they're going to do it again and again and again. And but back to the kids, I mean, my kids are 8 and 10 now, but so they're pretty happy with their electronics and stuff, but we have to put aside, but not good. Right. No, family time, let the electronics down. Yeah, I mean, I think you just have to know, what do you have to get done by for a certain time? What's your capability? Like if you're saying, I'm not going to work from 2 to 7, but I have to catch up on some stuff after 7. What do you have the bandwidth still to do? I mean, I used to work 24/7 when I was in Dubai and my kids were babies, and like, it was insane. Like, I mean, I think I even wrote something about that in my book about like trying to have kids and run a business. But I mean, you have to know what you can do and what you can't do. And then you have to, like Kim was saying, like set your boundaries with your schedule. And that's a really good point. I mean, we could probably have a whole thing just on that, how to make it all work. Well, let me move through this topic real quick. I just wanted to mention the book Getting Things Done by David Allen. And someone had told me about it a few years ago, and it's sort of like fascinating that there's a whole book about like how to get yourself organized, but I guess that we need that, right? And it's sort of like the leader in that subject. But he's basically like, part of what makes you stressed out about anything is in a system is if you don't feel like you can trust the system. And because your anxiety about, is it really going to work or not? Is there a fail safe? Is there a backup? And so if it's a bit chaotic and there isn't a system, then you get a little stressed out about it. Now you could have taken this for, a system in your firm or at your home or anything. So you sort of have to sort of capture everything. I sort of found a good cliff notes of this, but if anybody else loves the book and wants to talk about it, but, figure out what the problem is and what goes involved, and then clarify it, break it down to concrete steps, organize it, get a good flow, review it on a regular basis, and then just like run it like it's a computer system, I guess you could say, like make it go. And I mean, this could be how you process your law firm mail. This could be how you run your, how do you organize laundry at your house? I say that like at my home, our home mail is a mess. Somebody takes the mail and puts it on a counter. We sort of look at it, maybe like somebody shreds it, maybe they'll just rip it up, maybe they'll do something about it, but it's sort of chaotic. We don't get a lot of mail, thank goodness. Otherwise, I'd probably be stressed out. The law firm, beautiful. there's a system. They go get the mail, they label it, they stamp it, they scan it, they upload it. There's an email. It's like so organized. So like, I trust the system, and we have fail safes for that. But anyway, this is a really good book called Getting Things Done. And you can use a lot of these systems for your firm, for your home life, for anything. In fact, it's a good refresher to review it and go over that. So I'm going to check. Thanks, Kim. Yes, they do have a Cliff Notes version for this book. So it looks like there's a lot of good chat going on. So one of the other things I mentioned in my book, but this is out there, this is not like rocket science, but we have to figure out what you do on a regular basis, what's on your plate, and then figure out if you can eliminate it. Maybe it's a step that technology can take care of, or maybe it's not necessary because you can just automate something. So that's why you need to do a time audit, because then you can see what do you spend your time every day. And then after you do the time audit, then you can go through this and say, well, this could be eliminated, or maybe I can find a simpler system for this. You might be able to automate certain things that they can just a click of a button, do whatever it takes you 5 or 10 minutes. And then you also, most of us have firms or are managing a team of some sort. What can you delegate? Because a lot of us get into, I can do it better. No one else can do it as well as I can, so that you don't want to delegate, right? Does anybody have that? Feel free to put in the chat if you are you can feel me on that one. No. But the thing is that if we do that, okay, we got some honest souls here. If we do that, we're never going to get anywhere, because if we have to wear every single hat and do every single thing ourselves, we're never going to grow. So, if you want to grow, you have to let go. And now some people, they don't want to, and they want to do every single thing themselves. And, that's fine if that's what they want, if it's a choice. If it's not a choice, they just don't know how to get out of it, then that's why we're talking about this. So anyway, Tim Ferriss, I'll be honest, and hopefully he doesn't listen to this, but when I first read the 4-Hour Work Week, I just was like, oh my God, no, this guy's a jerk. Like, come on. Like, can he really do all this stuff and 4-hour work week, whatever. And then I think I read the updated version, and I started listening to his podcast and stuff. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'm starting to drink the Kool-Aid. Maybe this is true. You can do some of this, and eliminate, delegate, automate, find better, more efficient ways of doing things. Always trying to find the life hack or whatever to do everything more better, bigger, faster, whatever. I don't know, however you want to create the life that you want to have. So anyway, I would suggest that if you haven't thought of that before, to keep this as a mantra, analyze what you do, figure out what could you eliminate, what can you simplify, automate, or delegate, and stick to that. And then don't just do it once in your life. Do this on a quarterly or every 6 month or every year analysis, because you might start creeping up more crazy things on your plate that you hadn't thought about. You might be saying yes to, and you really shouldn't, or you can eliminate it or delegate it. So, and Kim, I don't know if you want to say anything else, feel free to chime in. I'm trying to catch the chats and go through the slides, but anybody has any other suggestions, feel free. Anything that you've delegated, automated, eliminated. Yeah, if you want to grow, you have to let go. That's right. So, okay, delegation refresher. Okay, delegation, remember what that is? Yes, we need to remember what that is. And also I had a poll going. Let's see if we have it. Let's see. The one that we have running right now is, oh boy, 86% say I'm not great at time management. Okay. Okay, Kim, you say you're better at automation than delegation. Well, maybe we could have you come talk to us about automation. And maybe we should do one on delegation at some point. But so anyway, looks like we could do some more talking about time management at some other time. But these are just some, well, I'm glad we're all being honest with ourselves, and it looks like this is something that we could all work on. So I'm going to move on to delegation. Now, these are just a refresher, but figure out what you can delegate. You probably can delegate almost anything, to be honest. And then figure out, do you have the right person to delegate it to? Maybe you don't have them on staff or contract now, but maybe you're going to go search out and find that person. So after you've done your time audit, and then you've analyzed, what you can eliminate, automate, and delegate, then you're going to start figuring out who's the best person that I could delegate, or what type of person do I need to delegate this position, these tasks to, and then give them some guidance, tell them what you need. You don't have to tell them exactly how to do it. Sometimes people will surprise you. You could say, this is how I've done it before, but this is the end result that I would like. And if you're not really sure about their ability, maybe you could say, see what you can do in 30 minutes or an hour. Give them a time constraint so that you can sort of see if they're, wasting a lot of time, or if they're efficient. Just sort of gauge and give them a deadline, because that's the whole concept. It's human nature. You need a deadline, or else you're gonna take as much time as you're given. And if you're not given a deadline, you're gonna take that no deadline time and spend it as much as you want. So I used to think that if I just, here's a pile of stuff, walk away, they're smart, they're capable, boom. Yeah, that's this little image down here that I found. That's more abdication. That's not how to delegate. So what might have happened is that we thought we were delegating, but we were really abdicating. And that's why it didn't work out. So definitely consider this as just a little reminder in case you need a reminder on delegation, and make sure that you're analyzing your what you do on a regular basis to what you can delegate. Even with my 12 or something staff and some other contractors, I probably could delegate more things on my plate on a regular basis so I can have more time with my kids. But I need to do what I'm telling you all to do, and we go over do a time audit and double check and what I possibly could delegate. Also, having a job description for ourselves is also something we could do too. So anybody else want to mention anything from the delegate or automate, eliminate, or getting things done?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I think that delegation is an intimidating and scary thing, especially for solos, because you're letting go of something that you feel like you said, only we can do, or we can do it better. But not only that, but we really care about it. And so taking that first step and wondering, well, can I afford to outsource this? Can I commit to this? I think it's a mindset issue that needs to be worked on as well.
I completely agree with you. And I honestly think that that's one of the biggest struggles of having a business, is when to hire for something and when to do it yourself. Because when in the very beginning, you don't have a lot of funds, depending on how much capital you have to start. And then you get into I can do it myself, because you're trying to save money. You're, trying to just get it done. And then you're like, when do I start getting a little cozy and have somebody else help me do it? And then I think you sort of have to change your paradigm. And it also depends on what type of firm you want. Like if you want to have something more small, less staff, less overhead, then maybe you do need to wear more hats. But you could also, if you're techie and you could automate and delegate as much as you can, then maybe you still could have more freedom than you think. But I think delegation does not come naturally, and nobody really teaches us management. So I think that's why this is so foreign to most people.
I completely agree. We're taught, especially in law school, to be so self-sufficient and to do it ourselves, not ask for the answer, but find it ourselves. So it's getting out of that and getting more comfortable with allowing others to have some hand in the pot too.
Yeah. And it goes back to, I might sound like a broken record, but I really like the book E-Myth Revisited. And he talks about how we're wearing we're the technician initially, Like for that means like we're lawyer, we're hanging a shingle, we can do the lawyer stuff. But that's okay in the beginning, it works all great in the infancy stage. But when you're getting into the maturation in the middle, or when you grow, you need to be a good manager. And that's where a lot of us stumble. If we do want to grow, we don't want to do every single thing in our firm or business. We have to be a good manager. And so that's where a lot of us could be failing if we can't figure out how do we break down what do we need to get done? How do we find the right person to do it? How do we train them? How do we monitor them, encourage them, inspire them, and keep things running with deadlines and make it all profitable? Yeah, of course. No wonder we get overwhelmed by that. And then you add more and more people to the mix. But, I will say that it doesn't happen overnight. And really, I think management is sort of like a muscle that you just have to like grow and strengthen yourself. You have to know your strengths and weaknesses, know what you're capable of, and then you can hire people to fill in your weaknesses. Know when your strengths are coming into play and when your weaknesses could be hurting you, in terms of management. And then you just keep improving, and also get self-awareness, and also have check-ins with staff, openly communicate what would you need from me as a supervisor. I even ask that when I'm hiring, like, what does your ideal supervisor look like? Usually everybody's shocked when I ask that question, because they've never been asked that. But I want to know, because I want to see, will I need that, or are we completely in different stratosphere? It's not going to work. It's a good question. I learn about the person from that. But and delegation doesn't have to be just at the office. It could be at home too. Like, I'm trying to put my 8 and 10-year-old to work on these chores, and even making the chore chart is getting me stumbled a little bit. But we're moving over to the home management. I think a lot of us don't really talk about it with each other, because we're just like working, or we're working from home, we're doing this and that. But I'm always intrigued, what are people doing? How are they making things work? Because I think people thought I had a nanny for the longest time. I haven't had a nanny for like 8 years since when my kids went to daycare. So we're cooking and cleaning and doing things, but sometimes I have these little hacks, like we're doing grocery delivery, or there'd be times where we find like prepackaged food, or once I hired some help just had food prepared and delivered to the house when we had a busy season and I just couldn't do it, or find ways that everyone else can share in duties. My husband bought these random, like, I don't know, it's like a Roomba, but something like that, like, a cleaning robot. We used to have one for every floor. I don't know, but that actually really helped when we didn't have people coming into our house during COVID. That really gave me some sanity. There's also like ones that can mop too, but so we're already into the Jetsons era. And then you can have chore charts, and even if you don't have kids to put to work, you could do it with family and figure out, you're in charge of trash, you're in charge of cooking, and we're going to do this one project every once in a while. Right now, we're trying to organize the house. So I have a map, a calendar for how we're going to tackle every area of the house between now and next spring when we might move. And so we're just, that's just trying to be organized. It goes back to the getting things done, sort of, or find a system, work the system, get everybody involved. And then it won't feel like you're the only one trying to run everything. So what, someone says, get the bills on auto pay, and have lawn care people. Your lawn care people just left. Probably. I mean, I feel like I always wanted those home manager people, like, the cleaning, the lawn, the cooking, the groceries. I mean, we don't have that. I'm sort of the home manager. I am the home manager, I guess you could say. But, what are you guys doing? Anybody have great advice? Even if it's like one small thing that just made a big change for you, feel free to chime in. And Kim, did you want to mention you said you have a growth document?
Yeah, I started documenting my processes on Sweet Process
Oh, yeah,
about
that's right.
8 months ago. And, at first it seems silly because it's just me, but having that there, and even it's great for home stuff too, because then, when something comes up, I know immediately what to go to. And like if there's some sort of maintenance that needs to be done, but just, I guess, having that growth mindset and that desire to do better, it makes you think about ways that you can make it easier. And documenting things definitely has made things easier. But with home stuff, it also comes down to documenting it so that my kids will understand it and my husband.
Yeah, that's true. Because,
Instead of micromanaging it.
right. And then they can't say, I don't know how to do it. And then you step in to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that never happens, right? Yeah, I agree. And even with my mindset of potentially either renting or selling my house, I'm thinking, okay, do we have all the logs of all when we bought all these things or the maintenance and things like that? And it's like a lot of times I've in my retreats and stuff, I've heard people say, I'm so organized for my clients or do this, but I haven't used the system for the firm, or I haven't used it personally. And so we can use a lot of the things we know, best practices in other areas of our lives to improve in these areas as well. Nina says, when I arrive at home, I prep the meal, but my husband and I clean after dinner is over and put everything back. And I've set a table like that on home tours, then I put everything back after dinner. Yeah, and that's good that you have like these systems. I make sure the kids help unload the dishwasher and put away the mats after dinner and things like that. But if anybody else, thanks for sharing any other suggestions. And I think as we're winding down to the closer to the top of the hour, also for self-care and health, what are you doing? I've seen a lot of people. If you're an immigration attorney, I've seen a lot of people talk about having PTSD, and a lot of people are overwhelmed. So I wanted to mention this, and we can even have a whole roundtable on this topic too. But a really good way you can look at it is there's physical, emotional, mental, spiritual health and self-care. And what are you doing to making sure that you're keeping yourself at maintenance? Katie, did you want to say something?
I did. And this kind of goes from what we were just talking about into what you're talking about now. So probably a good segue.
Okay.
Excuse me. I don't have any kids and I'm not married. So like some people in this, discussion, I have a different, situation, but what I found from two different women, one an immigration practitioner and one not, I heard both of them in the last year say something along the lines of, I, have been working so hard to make sure that everything at the firm is going and everything. And I get home and I do everything I can with the kids. And I came home and, I found my husband taking a nap. And I was furious. And this happened to a relative and an immigration practitioner, both of them. And so I said to my relative, who's also a close friend of mine, a lot of times we kind of assume that people around us, including men in our lives, know that we're working so hard and that they know that we need rest or time off or a break, and they don't always. And it's a lot of really good, well-meaning men don't know that, and you have to tell them. So I told my relative, go to your husband and tell him, hey, I'm glad you got to take your nap. You were tired and I was able to spend time with our kids. But next time, it's going to be me. By this time next week, I'm going to need a couple hours to myself. And, don't presume that he knows, because he may not. He's a good person who's got a lot going on too. And I think sometimes we think people should know, or we shouldn't have to bring things up, but that's simply not true. And so ask for what you need from people around you. Don't assume that they know it, or don't get in the trap of, I shouldn't have to ask. Yes, you should, because they don't know otherwise.
Yeah.
And then as far as self-care goes, as someone who completely burned out over the last couple of years and is working my way out of it, one book that I think I like Brene Brown, just period. I like a lot of her books and I've read a lot of them. one of the ones that she has that I think was super helpful is it's called The Gifts of Imperfection, but really it should be about living. It should be called something more like living a full life, because that's what it's really about. There's a reason it's called what it's called, but it talks about how important it is to have different facets of our life and how we just do better in everything when we can live, wholeheartedly is her word for it. And so anyway, that one I found super helpful. And I found that it was a book that really inspired me. Another one that really inspired me is called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, the same person who wrote Eat, Pray, Love.
Mhm.
It's totally different. And it's about what inspires you and what feels like you want to do it. And so anyway, just a couple books that I found really helpful for whatever that may be worth to everybody.
No, that's great. Thank you so much. And yeah, I wrote a whole chapter on self-care, and I mentioned Brene Brown's Daring Greatly and The Gifts of Imperfection. Let go of who you think you're supposed to be and embrace who you are. That's the one you just mentioned, and I think she has reviews coming out in November. I just saw on LinkedIn today. And another one, I think one that worked for me also was one called Boundaries, when to say yes and how to say no to take control of your life. That's a good one to reread every once in a while. And I also liked Renee Trudeau. She's actually from Austin. And she had Nurturing the Soul of Your Family, 10 Ways to Reconnect and Find Peace in Everyday Life. And another one called Trauma Stewardship, Everyday Guide to Caring for Self while Caring for Others. And a lot of these, that's a great reminder, like find, and feel free to put in the chat, some of the books you mentioned. You said Big Magic or something. So maybe we could all take a look at them too. But those are great. We can learn from each other, get inspired by the books. Sometimes we just need to reread the books, get a quote and start living those things in our lives. And that was a really good advice about, asking for what you need, because you might be stewing internally thinking, I'm working so hard, nobody sees how much I work, and everybody else is chilling out and I'm not, but that what does that get you? You have to communicate. And that's also what you learn in terms of in management and delegation. Like, you have to communicate, because you have to say, this is what I need. This is wrong. This is, I need it faster. I need it, I need you to do it differently. We have to, so if you find out that that's one of your weaknesses, that whole self-awareness, finding ways to communicate what you need and what you need to see. And that's really good advice. And we're all dealing with, on a ridiculous amount of stress if you add the COVID to this whole thing, and for the last year and a half as well. And so we might be starting to lose our ability to read people and being able to even communicate what our own needs are. So we have to be aware of that. So, what are some of the things that you all do? Feel free to put it in the chat. Thanks for sharing some of these great books. What are some of the things that you do to keep your health in check? Do you go to certain classes? Do you walk with a friend? Do you have therapy on schedule? Do you read, go to church? Do you, whatever your spiritual practice is? Do you have a regular check-in with friends? These are important to make sure that you keep on a regular basis. And I used to think self-care was just like, a glass of wine in a bubble bath, but no, it's more to it. When I read Renee Trudeau's book about like all these different realms, like physical, okay, I need to work out, emotional, I need to make sure I have therapy regularly, or talk with friends and to be able to open up and talk about feelings and thoughts. Mental, I need to read magazines and books and keep myself challenged. Spiritual, for me, I go to church regularly, things like that. So whatever it is for you, but whenever I skip one of these things, I know I get a little bit off balance. So find out what that routine is for yourself. And then, it's funny, I put this one last, like law practice management, business management, but there's so much that you could talk about in this realm. And this seems to be the one that we all, a lot from the poll said that we need the most help on. But I would say, like, the fast version of this, because we have only a few minutes, is, make sure you have systems in place, documented, just like the whole getting things done. Are things documented? Do people know where to find what's being done? I've asked people in the past, what percentage of your firm or your business is documented in terms of processes? And I mean, feel free to put in the chat if you want to, but I've found a lot of people say they don't have majority of their processes written out. And Kim, can you mention that program that you use, Suite? I forgot what you said, Stream, Suite, I'm getting them all mixed up, but a Suite process, I think you said. But so one of the things I would say that's really important to do is have your procedures written out in a place people can see, easy to read, make sure it's updated on a regular basis. The other concept is having the right people in the right seats. It might seem simple, but it's really simple and yet hard at the same time, because you need to make sure that you have the right person, but they're in the wrong seat. Or, so you can't just move them around, because you need to make sure you have the right people in the right seats. And so there, as the expression goes, like rowing in the same direction in unison, then you will be, amazingly efficient and profitable, and you'll have, the sky's the limit if you can get to that point. But it takes time, because you have to be able to attract the right people, train the right people, get them in the right seat, have the money and the funds to pay them and intrigue them and inspire them and keep everybody, and make sure you control the culture and make sure that you're keeping everybody in unison. And then also making sure that you have your backup plans or backfills for roles, so that if somebody were to have COVID or get sick or leave unexpectedly with very little notice, that it won't be a huge disruption, because you've been living in that quadrant 2, where it's important but not urgent, because you've had written out your procedures, your job descriptions, and things like that. So those are just some high level things to think about, but with the business management. But if you haven't written out job descriptions, that's one thing I tell people, go have your staff write out a job description of what they do. Give them a deadline, 1 week, okay? And then compare them and review them and see. That's a good start. And then start writing out your procedures, but you don't have to write them all out yourself. If you have staff, start having your staff delegate them to start writing out some of those procedures. So those are just some things. There's so much to be said about business management, but that's a good start if you haven't done that yet. And then there's ways to keep tweaking and improving as you progress. So I'm going to just mention a couple things of the upcoming roundtable, but if anybody wants to chime in for any other advice on anything, any topic, please do. So we upcoming, the next date is going to be September 22nd. And we have that one already figured out with Sheila Murthy. But the October 6th, 10th, and December 8th, I'm going to probably use this last poll that seems like the most important topic is something about tech, best tech stack, or another favorite is marketing, and the other favorite is finance and bookkeeping. So those will probably be our next 3 roundtables. So the 22nd, I have Sheila Murthy, and we're going to be talking about realign your business's mission, vision, and core values for future resilience. And I think this is a really important topic, because a lot of times we don't have a mission statement. We don't know why we're doing what we're doing. We just started doing it, and we're paying the bills, and we just get an autopilot. And so we have to go back and remember and reassess and realign our mission and vision. So I'm really excited to have her with me. And if you haven't already joined, feel free to join the Power Up Your Practice Facebook group and keep this conversation going between roundtables, so that we can learn from each other, and we can share books, tech suggestions, ideas. And I am going to have a retreat. This will be live on Zoom. So live, like remote, on November 5th and 6th from, it'll be from, I believe it's 9 to 4 on a Friday and a Saturday. And we'll have a small group and we'll go over my book. And this is helpful for someone who just started or have had their firm for a long time. And on that small group setting, we can really learn from each other and have a lot of conversation and dialogue. So, and we cover almost every chapter in my book, but here's some of the topics that they'll cover. Everything from time management, people, staff, data, metrics, marketing, and delegation. So, and I put a link to the, oh, sorry, I'm moving it really fast for you. I put a link to the book with the 20% discount code if you'd like, in the chat earlier. And so all of our recordings in the past will be on our YouTube page as well, so that you can see it here. All right, so who else? Oh, thanks, Kim. Ruby's book helped me get started so quickly. Thank you. And I actually do have a chapter, I think it's called Quick Start Guide. It's like if you just started tomorrow, you could just read that chapter and you're all good. It's that simple, right? So anyway, I'm so glad to have such a great discussion. And, I think that I'm always wanting to learn from other people how we can just make everything work. We're wearing so many hats. We're counselors, we're advisors, we're business owners, we're managers. We might be, caregivers, parents, spouses, whatever. We're wearing a lot of hats. And so how do we make it all work? And I think that's great. We learn from each other tips, tricks, hacks, books, suggestions, whatever that requires for us to do to be more efficient. So any other suggestions, thoughts? That's great. So you're better at time management than you thought you were. So you're walking away with confidence because you're better at something than you thought you were. So let's see, anybody else have feel free to chime in. Oh, we just have a minute or two left, but it's been great to have started to have this discussion with you all today. Katie, did you have your hand raised? All right. Well, I think we'll go ahead and close up, but if you have any questions, feel free to email me, and just definitely would love to stay in touch. We do have the retreat coming up. We have the roundtable on the 22nd, and I put the link in the chat already for you. And also I have a list of different books that I've suggested, and you can also see a list of the books that I suggested on the back of the book that I wrote. If you want, I can always share that with you. We're starting to get them all on the website. And yeah, so if you ever want to be a co-panelist, there's something revolutionary you want to share, even if it's not so revolutionary, feel free to just email me, let me know. I love to keep these conversations going. And if there's a topic that you want, please let me know, because I basically my staff says, just talk about whatever you're working on. And I was like, yeah, that's true. There's a lot of things I'm always working on, and hot topics that I'm always trying to process. Okay, someone said it's about setting fees. Okay, that sounds like a good one. Well, thank you. Feel free to reach out to me. Thanks for joining. Sign up for the September 22nd. Look into the retreat if you're interested, and just join us for the upcoming roundtables, and join the Facebook group and tell your friends about it. So have a great week. Stay strong, stay organized. We can do it. You're on the right path. Take care. Bye.